In 1992, Rakim rapped a song called Don't Sweat the Technique. In it, he said, MCs want a beef, then I'll play for keeps when they sweat the technique. Rakim was saying in this line and throughout the entire song that he takes his technique seriously, so don't bother him, don't mess with him in terms of his technique. In the second verse, he goes on and he talks about his technical style is full of technology. He doesn't want his listeners to underestimate the potency of his technical flow, nor does he want people to sweat his technique. Why? Because he sweats his technique enough for everyone. In The Great Ballerina, Misty Copeland's book, Life in Motion, she writes that the pain she went through sweating her technique was immense. She wrote that she endured stress fractures in her legs, among other things. I recall an issue with the back and other injuries that took place due to her working toward perfecting her technique. She sweated her technique. This was an elite dancer who always sought to perfect her technique. She always felt that she could get a little bit better in her dancing. Teachers, could you and I get better in our teaching? Like Rakim and Misty Copeland, we ought to sweat our technique. Our pursuit of perfect elements of teaching should be on the same level as Hall of Fame dancers and rappers. The groundbreaking Misty Copeland sets an example of how we ought to sweat our own technique. Now, which teaching technique should we sweat? Well, let's start with any element of teaching. Let's start with something that catches your eye. Sweat your technique for your lesson design. Sweat your technique for gaining learner feedback. Sweat your technique for transitioning from one place in your lesson to another. Whatever element of teaching you decide to sweat the technique on, make sure you sweat the technique and simply improve.